Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Your Mark on the World show. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe, and our guest today is Adam Gardner, who is the co-founder of Reverb and the frontman for Guster. Adam, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Devin. Thanks for having me.
We're thrilled to have you and excited to talk about this. You've done something which I think is really quite remarkable, that you found a way to bridge the music world and the nonprofit world with an environmental agenda. Tell us a little bit about how that all got started.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a touring musician now for 25 years, and my wife and I met when we were young. She was 18 and I was 19. I met my bandmates when I was 18, so it all started many years ago. The seeds were sort of planted then. She's always been an activist and an environmentalist. I've always been a musician. When we were living together, you live as you do with an environmentalist. I became an environmentalist as well, although at the time I wouldn't call myself that. I was just doing what made sense to me. And we learned a lot through Lauren, my wife, my then girlfriend, now wife. And I would go out on the road, and it was this really just the complete opposite out on tour from how I was living at home. And so, plastic all over the ground at the end of the night from all the cups. Everything's disposable. You're going through all these batteries. You're in a gas guzzling tour bus. And I talked to a bunch of other bands on the road that we would be opening for or playing with that felt the same way. And just, we all kind of sat around shrugging our shoulders at each other. And I think I came home one too many times complaining to Lauren about it. And she said, well, let's do something about it. Don't just shrug your shoulders at each other and go, that's too bad. Let's do something about it. And really, Reverb was born out of that desire to make change. And then, of course, once that initial step was taken, we really started seeing like, okay, wait, there's so many ways to influence the industry and not just our peers and not just cleaning up our own acts on tour, but actually influencing and engaging all our fans, which is where the massive, impact really lies.
Yeah, it's exciting to see what you're doing. Now, I want to just dig down a little bit on the problems you see and why they exist. Let's just go through it. But in essence, you're saying you see a lot of the disposable behavior, a lot of plastic cups, et cetera, big tour buses. Tell me a little bit about what you're seeing in terms of those problems. Let's just dig a little deeper.
Sure. I mean, there's two issues that I think Reverb tackles all at once on kind of the grand scheme. One is, how do we make the music industry itself more sustainable? And the other, and I would argue much larger issue that we're talking about, is how do we engage the public to take action themselves and to use their power and influence on their communities, as consumers, as potential leaders, or just community members of their schools or their churches or their workplaces or whatever it is. How do we all really change the hearts, minds, and actions of the public? And so a huge part why we're called Reverb is it starts from the artist and reverberates out from the stage to the fans, from the fans into their communities, into their workplaces, into their schools, etc., to really make this wave of change happen, because that's what it's going to take. And that takes so many different forms, and I'm happy to dig into any of those if you want.
Yeah, but as you're out on tour, I think you said you now use biodiesel. Is that right?
Yeah, so when we can, and certainly and we do this for a lot of other tours too. So Dave Matthews Band or Jack Johnson are very good examples where they have large touring fleets, because they're much obviously bigger bands than Guster. They really feel guilty and wanted to make change. So they're going from using diesel to biodiesel, which is a locally sourced. We actually have a whole network. We've been working with the Sustainable Biodiesel Alliance, which I am an honorary member of, along with Willie Nelson and Jack Johnson, and a lot of some familiar faces, but also a bunch of great experts in the field who are truly working the organization. But we use their tenets for sustainable community-based biodiesel. So all of a sudden, instead of supporting some foreign country, you're actually supporting a local farmer who's growing food and a local biodiesel supplier who's actually taking soy waste products and turning it into grease. Or here in Portland, Maine, where Reverb's based, where I am right now, we have Maine Biofuels that goes around and collects grease from all the clam shacks and turns that into fuel. And so it's been great. We've filled up Dave Matthews and Fish and Jack Johnson and a lot of the artists that come through here with, fry later grease that's been converted to biodiesel. So it's a very different, all of a sudden they're leaving a wave of support. Not only are their emissions significantly reduced, they're leaving this wave of support and community economic support of these organizations, farmers, businesses that are actually doing the right thing.
Yeah, it is exciting to see that shift, that change. Is there enough biodiesel? You say when you can, you do it. So sometimes you must find yourselves in situations when you can't. What drives that?
Availability and the market. You have to be super dedicated to create biofuels. Most of the people who are doing it are doing it because they believe in the cause and what it represents. I think in some cases it is a viable business, but in certain parts of the country it just isn't as much, or isn't as readily available, or it's not at the level where we can say, great, can you come? Usually if it's a Dave Matthews Van Tour, for example, we're asking them to wet hose. So they literally bring out a tanker and fuel all these vehicles, because that's how many vehicles are out there. So we need, thousands of gallons of fuel. For a smaller band such as Guster, where we are only in one bus or maybe a bus and a truck, that becomes economically less viable to have someone actually come and fuel you up with a tanker, because there's a delivery charge. So for us, it's more about finding pumps around the country, and those are less available. There's usually smaller blends, because a lot of what we're using with biodiesel is a blend between biofuel and traditional diesel. And again, biodiesel is just one of a million things that we do to help towards become more sustainable. So I don't want to.
What are some of the other things you're doing? I'm fascinated with biofuels because I think that's an important part of a solution to a variety of problems. But tell us more about the other things that you're doing.
Sure. I mean, there's no one thing, right? There's never a silver bullet. And so for us, we look at everything we possibly can. And our philosophy in general is, well, let's meet bands where they're at and see how far we can take them along. Like, let's just get them along the path of sustainability. It's a spectrum. It's a goal. It's an endpoint. So how do we get people closer to it? So some tours want to go full out and have the ability to do that. And we'll have, on Jack Johnson's tour, we'll have 3 staff members folded into their crew, working full time. We're setting up a full eco village out front, which we haven't gotten to yet, which I want to get to, the fan side. But we'll also have, compost backstage, and we're sourcing food for catering. It's a 100-person crew, so we're sourcing food for catering from local farmers that are organic and family owned. We're looking at the waste stream completely. For Jack, he doesn't want anything disposable, so everything's reusable. China, there's no disposable anything. He's actually asked the venues, before he even agrees to book a gig, he's asked the venues to eliminate disposable single-use water bottles. And that Reverb actually brings out water stations that is, triple filtered water stations from the tap, that people can refill their reusable water bottles, and they can get reusable water bottles for a donation. So that's actually a program that we have been doing for the past several years. That's been really great. It's called Rock and Refill. It's a partnership with Nalgene, where we get these, if it's a Maroon 5 bottle. So right now we're on tour with Maroon 5. We have a Maroon 5, tour artwork bottle for $10. It's a donation to the greening program that we're doing out on the road. It supports our work. We also often take a portion of that and support local organizations with it. And then people can fill up free water all night with that bottle. And it's a merch item that they get to take home, which is often a lot cheaper than any other merch item they'll buy at the actual merchandise booth. Yeah.
Now, you said you wanted to talk a little bit about what's going on the fan side. In addition to the water bottles, what else are you doing?
So a big part of what we're doing is supporting. For us, it was really important to connect local and national nonprofit campaigns to the power of music, right? It's harnessing that power and connection that artists have with their fans to engage people. It's a very different conversation than, say, somebody out on the streets with a clipboard, which I'm sure people have bumped into. and you're getting canvassed, right? And hey, do you have a moment for Greenpeace or whatever it is? That's a very different conversation, even if the very Greenpeace that was out on the street was in the Eco Village because it's part of John Mayer's tour, for example. All of a sudden, they're wearing a shirt that has a John Mayer logo. You can see some of the shirts behind us. These are some volunteer shirts in the past. That, you know, it's clear that we're part of the artist tour. We're an officially sanctioned part of what they're doing. They want us there, and the fans know that because they're being messaged to ahead of time online by the artist saying, hey, we're gonna have a green tour and Reverb's out here and come out and participate. This is why, you know, this issue, whatever it is, and we change the issue depending on, we customize it to each artist and what they want to do. Come on out and support, you know, organic food. You know, we want to talk about sustainable agriculture on this tour. Next tour could be about wildlife conservation. It totally depends on what the artist wants, and we're happy to do whatever it is within the environmental realm. So the fans are already so warmed up for this. They know that we're an extension of the artist, and that they actually want to plug into what the band is passionate about. So yeah, it's a very different conversation. So yeah, we have the Eco Village often consists of local nonprofit groups, a national nonprofit campaign, maybe a local business or a national business. I see that you've got Clean Energy Advisors as one of your partners. They're a partner of ours as well for all of 2017.
So tell me about that partnership.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, this is a perfect example of how we like to work with brands that are like-minded. You know, we met them when we started working together on the Dead & Company tour last year. And it was just immediately obvious that it was a great fit because what they do is they help bring clean energy programs and projects onto the power grid, solar specifically. They take investments, and it's all about impact investing for people who actually want their money to not only give them returns, but do something good for the planet. And so for us, that's an obvious fit. And then actually getting to know the members of you know, Clean Energy Advisors, Chris, the CEO, the conversation was so different. Usually, you know, a relationship with a brand partner is, okay, so what's our exposure and how many impressions are we getting and what are the deliverables we're getting for how many dollars we're giving you to support? And that wasn't the conversation at all. It was about how do we get the word out about solar energy and how it's viable now and how it's actually a good business proposition, and it makes sense on the cause level, the dual, you know, the triple bottom line piece. So yeah, it's been a really incredible partnership that we've just started. They're our official greening partner for 2017. So we're doing a bunch of them.
Great. Well, it is a great organization. They sponsor our work, and we're thrilled to have that partnership as well. So, Adam, you are clearly, I mean, you're a big deal. A lot of people look up to you. You inspire a lot of people, and for good reasons. But who do you look up to? Who inspires you as a role model?
I think so many people inspire me. And one of my favorite things about this work is working with artists that I otherwise maybe wouldn't cross paths with. You know, Guster and Linkin Park have absolutely nothing to do with each other musically. Our paths wouldn't cross otherwise. But I've really enjoyed working with them because we have this shared passion and recognize the opportunity we have as artists to engage our fans. Linkin Park's opportunity is a lot larger than Guster's, but an opportunity nonetheless. And so that's been really great. If I had to pick one, which I know you want me to do, I would pick Bonnie Raitt, because she was really, we consider her the godmother of this modern environmental movement within music. The model that we use with making the tour green itself and engaging fans in the front of house with local nonprofit groups, she really developed in 2002 with her manager, Kathy Kane. So the two of them were a huge part of helping us get off the ground. We were actually part of Kathy and Bonnie's foundation called Artist Resources in Action, the ARIA Foundation, our first 3 years of existence. And she's just such an incredible inspiration.
Well, it is inspiring. Now, Adam, you could be doing a lot of things. Obviously, you're busy with the band, with Guster. Why have you tackled, why have you felt personally responsible? I mean, I sort of get the underlying motivations, but at the same time, we all understand the need to make the world better, but most of us don't do anything. Why did you step up and say, I'm going to spend part of my time on Reverb instead of Guster?
Well, first of all, they're hand in hand, which is really nice. So Guster helps Reverb, Reverb helps Guster. It's a good thing all around. But that isn't the reason. You're right. That isn't the reason why I've spent so much of my time. I'm here in the office. When I'm not on the road, I'm here full time in the Reverb office in Portland, Maine. And even when I'm on the road, my bandmates make fun of me. Oh, he's in the Reverb chamber in the back of the bus because I'm on my laptop or I'm on the phone and I'm working. And yeah, I think for me, it's just, I don't know, maybe there's an OCD. I know there is, but that extends to the world and saying, well, this is a mess. We need to clean this up. And doesn't make sense. We're smarter than this as a species, I think. So for me, it comes down to even just that. Like, it's just to me, it's common sense. And I don't think we're using it as well as we should be as a species. And that's just coming more and more to a head. And especially with today's climate, I'm feeling more and more. Well, I've always been passionate about it, but now I feel there's even more of an urgency and more of an importance to what we're doing. It gives me another reason to get up on stage and play. I've been touring for 25 years. I love my bandmates. I love my band. But a huge part of what motivates me is that I do have another way of connecting with people and our fans.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Now, Adam, what is your superpower?
I don't know if I think my superpower is the same as everybody's. We all have superpowers, and our superpower is to influence each other for good. Honestly, I know it sounds a little trite, but that is, I think about this a lot. We call it, like Lauren and I talk about circles of influence, and how do we, whatever your circle is, that's your superpower. So if it's your classmate, if it's your coworker, if it's your bandmate, if it's other people in your industry, if it's your mom or dad, or if it's your sister or brother, I think that's what it is. As humans, we all have this power to influence each other in a positive way to make real change happen.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Adam, I sure appreciate you taking the time to be with us today, and appreciate you exercising your superpower with us, sharing a little influence. But before you go, please tell us how people can learn more about Reverb and connect with you.
For sure, yeah. If you go to reverb.org, you can definitely get onto our email list and sign up to volunteer. We're using volunteers all the time. They're a huge part of what actually allows us to do what we do on the ground. We're actually a fairly small operation here in Portland, Maine, but it's the massive street team of volunteers that we have out around the country that really make this work. And of course, the artists themselves. So yeah, reverb.org. Plug in there and please join us.
Fantastic. Well, Adam, thank you very much for taking the time to be with us today. We wish you every success in cleaning up this messy world of ours.
Thank you, Devin. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All righty. Let's do some good.